Every Iron Man guide you see on YouTube right now is terrible, and they are made by people that are first and foremost content creators, but they don't actually play the character, and they especially do not play the character at high ranks. And the reason I say this is because once I left Diamond, I am the only Iron Man player I have seen besides one other guy. In the entirety of me playing ranked this whole season, I've seen one other Iron Man player. So all these guys you're seeing, they're terrible. In fact, they're detrimental in a lot of ways, which we'll talk about in a second. I wanted to make this guide more approachable to newer players and less invested Marvel Rivals players because that's what I am. I am primarily an MMORPG player, and I just dabble in games like Marvel Rivals. I am not some sort of FPS mechanics aim god or some game sense guru that, tracks ultimates like crazy. No, I'm just an above average player that has figured out how Iron Man works at a pretty good level. So let's talk about some of the strengths of Iron Man, because if you look at any of these tier list videos, you would think Iron Man is just unplayable, the worst character ever, and I think this character has a lot of strengths to it. So the number one thing Iron Man brings to the table is an unbelievably high amount of sustained damage. This character isn't going to surprise you. You're not going to get any crazy, flank picks or really, what you see is what you get with Iron Man, and that is unbelievably high pressure. With the Unibeam, you will do 140 damage per second. It's hit scan. It's got a 25-meter range. The beam is relatively large, so you don't need to be super precise with it like Hela's daggers. And most importantly, you can channel the Unibeam for 10 seconds straight. 140 DPS, no spread, hit scan for 10 seconds straight. And this is the base level Unibeam. We're not talking about overdrive. We're not talking about gamma overdrive. We're talking about just the base right click, 140 DPS, 10 seconds straight. Now, to contextualize how much damage this truly is, let's talk about another character, Star-Lord. Star-Lord, everybody agrees, Star-Lord up close, if he hits 100% of his shots, does an insane amount of damage. He does. Now, Star-Lord will do 1,560 damage over 10 seconds, hitting 100% of his shots at 10 meters. So 10 meters, hitting every shot, 1,560 damage over 10 seconds. Now, that's obviously a ridiculous example that no one will ever do, but Iron Man will do 1,400 damage, hitting 100% of his shots over 25 meters. Again, Iron Man, no spread. This is the base level Unibeam. We're not talking about overdrive. We're not talking about gamma overdrive. Why are these damage numbers so close? Well, it's because Iron Man does not have to reload hardly ever. With Iron Man, you can just channel these Unibeams forever. It's insane how much damage you can put out with this character if you are able to safely channel your Unibeam. It's crazy. And again, this is the base level Unibeam. Overdrive Unibeam will do 1,900 damage over 10 seconds. And the Gamma Overdrive Unibeam will do 2,200 damage over 10 seconds. That's crazy. 2,200 damage over 10 seconds is actually a staggeringly massive amount of damage. So, Gamma Overdrive doing 220. That's pretty crazy. I don't think the Hulk team up is mandatory by any means. In fact, I would rather, unless you're a very comfortable Hulk player, I would recommend not going for that. I know a lot of people like to jump on Hulk the second they see an Iron Man. Only do that if you're actually good at the character. But Overdrive Unibeam, just the one you get by default by hitting E, 190 DPS over 10 seconds. That is absolutely crazy. Now, the one secret thing a lot of people don't really know about Iron Man's Unibeam is that it penetrates. You can Unibeam, theoretically, 6 people. The beam goes through other players. It does not go through strange shields and hit other players, but you're highly incentivized to shred the strange shields, and you're very incentivized to be up in the front lines, kind of playing with your tanks a little bit, because that Unibeam, you can get collateral damage with it. So if you're able to exist in that front line, just slightly away from your tanks, the amount of damage you can do is genuinely incredible. If you're able to Unibeam the front line and stay alive behind your tanks while getting these collateral beams and just putting unrelenting pressure on the enemy tanks and the enemy healers, it's going to enable the other 5 guys on your team to just start popping off. And the big thing I want to hit home with here is that it doesn't really matter who you Unibeam. Yes, you obviously want to Unibeam the squishy people when you can, but if you're able to safely Unibeam a tank, and you're able to just 100% guaranteed free Unibeam on a tank behind a corner, do it. Like, do it. It doesn't matter what the target is. If you're able to channel big, long, 10-second Unibeams in safety, that is absolutely the play you should do, because it's effectively a crowd control. When the other tank is getting Unibeamed, they're playing defensively, and the healer is just sitting there forced having to spam heals into them. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. And then the other 5 guys on your team are just going to start rolling them. So the one thing with Ironman, Ironman is kind of a unique DPS in that people have to deal with you, and you're actually going to win a lot of games as Ironman because the other team has to actively counter you. They have to actually play against you, whereas with a more passive DPS like Punisher or Hela, an enemy Hela or an enemy Punisher can just kind of be on the other team. You don't really need to like specifically deal with them. Whereas with Iron Man, if you do not deal with the Iron Man and you let the Iron Man just do what he wants to, he's going to destroy the lobby. And let me tell you, even at Grandmaster, people will let you just run games. Like, you just become server admin because either they can't stop you or they refuse to stop you. And it's actually crazy. There's only a few edge cases where you can be popping off on Iron Man and still lose, and those are like weird, like triple support, triple tank games where like nothing dies and it just gets a little weird. But 95% of the time, if you are dominating on Iron Man, just able to do damage to anything, you win. When it comes to Iron Man, the name of the game is Unibeam. Unibeam is where you're going to get your most value, and if you can't get Unibeams off, then you need to not be playing Iron Man. I see these terrible YouTube videos saying they're like, oh, take a crazy off angle and be 10,000 feet away and spam repulsors. That's terrible. Maybe that works in bronze. I promise you that will not work in Grandmaster and above. You're useless. You're gonna first of all die, but you're also just doing ineffective damage. Your core value on Iron Man comes from the Unibeam. However, with that being said, the repulsors absolutely have a place. You need to get good with your repulsors. You need to start learning corners to spam, chokeholds. Like, there's going to be little areas of the map that you can spam your repulsors at while you're waiting for the enemy team to come back after they lost a team fight, and you'll get a lot of chip damage. And the thing with the repulsors, that the repulsors have a few things that make them unique. It has 0 damage fall off. The repulsors, you can repulsor somebody across the map and it will do full damage. You can 3-tap a squishy target with your repulsors. And weirdly enough, in a lot of ranges, you actually have the advantage against like Hela and Punisher and some of these hit scans, some of these extreme ranges, especially if you have a wall to play off of where you just kind of peek in and out of the wall and repulsor them. Again, this is not like a long-term thing you want to do, but like if it's like the pre-fight where both teams are sort of edging up to each other, you know, you can actually, believe it or not, even at Grandmaster, you can get kills with your repulsor through what I like to call the Repulsor Blast lottery, where, you know, if you hit a direct hit and then you get some splash damage and then your teammate hits like a little bullshit shot, people die. Even at Grandmaster, you will get a lot of cheeky kills with the repulsor, just shooting your repulsor at like a corner where it can get a direct hit on somebody's big toe. That's what I generally go for. I try to get direct hits on players' toes, because if I miss the direct hit, I still get the splash damage, and if I hit them, obviously you get the full damage, and you're going to get collaterals. And again, yeah, even at the highest level, you will still get corny, cheesy kills with the repulsor. You can farm your ultimate pretty quickly. Now, in terms of using your overdrive and like overdrive repulsoring, I think for the most part, this is not worth it. You want to save your overdrive for your beam, but there are instances where, like, let's say the enemy team doesn't have a shield tank. They're running like Venom and like Thor or some crazy tank combo, and the enemy team just has to eat your repulsors as they run through a hallway. That is absolutely worth popping your overdrive and doing some big repulsor blasts. And especially if you have the Hulk team up, you can get a lot of corny kills with those big green boogers you are slinging at people. So yeah. But for the most part, you don't want to use your repulsors in like an active team fight outside of, you know, a few here and there. Now, let's quickly talk about positioning. Now, we're not going to do a whole positioning guide because that could be like an hour long, but there's a general flow chart you want to go with. And that is, you want to be near a piece of physical cover. This is going to be the best thing. Ideally, you can get an angle on somebody where you can be tucked around a corner yourself while hitting a Unibeam on something. It could be a tank, it could be a DPS. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can safely Unibeam behind a pillar, behind a corner, behind the payload, whatever it is, if you can do that, you should. In fact, I can't really think of any time where that's really a bad move. So safely omni-beaming, that is the number one. But if you can't do that and you can't, get to somebody, you want to have your tanks in front of you. If your tanks are in front of you, then you can, tuck behind them if things get a little scrappy. But most importantly, if the tanks are in front of you, then naturally your healers are going to be behind you and you are going to be an easily healable target. And that's one thing I really want to hammer home to you guys. As Iron Man, you need to be in a position that allows you to be easily healable. You do not want to be 10,000 feet up in the air because, first of all, if you get isolated by hit scan, where are you going to go? You're 10,000 feet in the air, and by the time you get to the ground to take cover, you're dead. But also, you're not very healable. You are not in direct line of sight of your healer. And if you're trying to be the main character and take some crazy flank angle 10,000 feet in the sky, guess what? Your healer is going to have to look up at the sky, divert his entire attention from the field of battle to heal you specifically on your solo mission that's likely going to fail because as you move up the ranks, you're going to get fly swatted out of the air so fast if you fly up like that. And I'm not even talking about by Punisher or Hela. These Luna Snow players get good enough to where the Luna Snow will take your ass out if you fly up and isolate yourself away from the team. So Iron Man doesn't have a lot of health, but with the way his kit is, with his vertical mobility, with his sprint, he has a lot of tools in his kit that allow him to be easily healable. Iron Man has a lot of mobility and he has unlimited vertical mobility. So people just assume you need to be using this in the most extreme ways possible all the time. But in fact, it's actually better to use this sparingly. Again, to keep hammering the point home, for the most part, you want to be playing in close proximity to your team. However, the fact that you can fly forever means that you can do slight off angles. Now, you want to think of Iron Man in the same way that you think of high-level Punishers and high-level Psylocks. The high-level players aren't going off on crazy mad flanks. They take off angles that are slightly different from what the team is shooting at. And the same thing goes with Iron Man. However, you can take your off angles vertically. So for example, the payload. I use the payload a lot as a piece of cover because normal characters, when they're behind the payload, they can't see out of it. But with Iron Man, you can hit the space bar and pop your head up a little bit, and you can head glitch effectively on the payload. And there's lots of little instances like that in this game where just that little bit of vertical height allows you to use a piece of cover that nobody else can use, but you can. Also, with Iron Man, you can take advantage of enemies' Groot walls. The enemy will put up a Groot wall, and you're like, oh, thank you very much. Now I will peek my head over this and be behind cover, basically, while I Unibeam you. So you want to take advantage of your vertical mobility to just get these very slight off angles. You don't need to go on crazy flanks. You just need to be at a slightly different angle to where you're not hitting the Magneto shield or not hitting the Groot wall or whatever you're trying to do, just to, squeeze in that, maybe get that surprise kill on a backliner. Again, Unibeam, 25-meter range, a lot further than you think. Go in the target range and actually see how far it is, because visually it seems like it's not as far of a distance as it is. So get familiar with that range. But a lot of times, man, the Magneto will have his shield up, and those people behind Magneto will think that they're safe, and you just hit the spacebar just a little bit and you torch them. So that's how you want to use Iron Man's mobility, just to barely get a little bit of an off angle every now and then. And then you don't want to do this all the time. You'll get your head blown off, but just here and there, and to safely use your cover in ways that other characters can't. The best part about Iron Man is that you don't fall to the ground. You can stick by that pillar, that weird piece of cover that nobody else can use. You can use it because you can just stay in the air all the time. Also with Iron Man, you need to have a little bit of a tentative escape plan if people rush you or if you start taking some shots. Where do you go? Now, ideally, you're going to be near a piece of physical cover that you're able to just sort of naturally tuck back behind and catch some heals, but you need to be near something that you can play off of, whether it's a player, a wall, whatever it may be, a health pack. You need to have some sort of backup plan because people can surprise you on Iron Man, and you're going to need to hit shift and start doing some jucking and jiving to stay alive. So again, this goes back to you do not want to isolate yourself and be in the sky 10,000 feet up in the air. It is just a terrible idea because where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You can die immediately and you have no wall to go to, nothing to play off of. It's terrible. Now let's talk about Iron Man's ultimate, which in my opinion is the hardest part about his kit. Now there's going to be a lot of people in low ranks that have zero experience playing Iron Man at a high level that will tell you that this is an easy ultimate to use. They are totally wrong. This ultimate is one of the hardest ones to use in the game at a high level, in my opinion, because there are so many get out of jail free cards. There are so many ways that people can counter this ultimate. First of all, they can just shoot you, and at high ranks, they just shoot you. It's incredibly difficult to even survive, much less get kills. And when it comes to all the different mobility skills people have, the shielding on Magneto and Doctor Strange, the bubbles from Strange, Cloak and Dagger, making everybody immune with the shadow thing, them counter-ulting, Magneto counter-ult. There's a lot of stuff people can do, or they can just fucking shoot you. It's really that simple. So there's two different ways you can go about it. You can, number one, be super sneaky and go for the backline repulsor over or the backline ultimate over a doorway or something like that as they go through the choke. That is a really good strategy until it isn't. Eventually, as you move up the ranks, people will mind game you on this, where they will pretend like they don't know you're there, and then the split second you pop their ultimate, they all do a 180 and fucking fire up at your spot. So when people get better ultimate tracking, the sneaky ults don't work nearly as much. But a few tips I have for you if you're trying to be sneaky is use Iron Man's slow flight. Just hold W, don't hold shift. The second you hit shift, you sound like a jet engine. They will hear you. But if you slowly fly, you actually make no noise. And then you ultimate them. And you got to be a little patient here. Sometimes you have to go for the sacrifice play. There are some obvious use cases for the ultimate and when to use it. Luna Snow, if you can hit a Luna Snow in her ultimate, that's like the biggest play you can make. Realistically, at high ranks, if you get to Grandmaster and above, if you can get a kill on anybody and survive, that's a win. A good example of a way I like to use the Iron Man ult is if I see like a Venom dive in, he swings in and dives my support, I'll use it on him. I will just barrel stuff the Venom and get a kill, and now it's 5v6, and we just took out a ton of HP on a high health hero that would have taken forever, and I'm able to just get one kill. Realistically, at the high ranks, getting the Giga ultimates, the Giga Pulse Blast, it just doesn't happen. That people have so many ways to either move out of it, movement skills, the shielding, there's so many ways people get shields. Cloak and Dagger super meta right now, so they just hit the Cloak and Dagger thing, and you're fucked, and they just go turn to shadow. Again, at lower ranks, people are going to pretend. People think this is actually an easy ultimate to use. Now, as I've climbed up the ranks, the best way I find to use it is just a tempo ult. Like, if I shred a Doctor Strange shield, or the Doctor Strange kind of veers away from his teammates, and I'm able to just go, maximal pulse, and just and fucking fire that thing out in the middle of the chaos, I find that actually works better than you would think. You think you have to do this crazy setup, but realistically, if you've got a little bit of momentum and the tank can't block with a shield, a tempo ultimate right in their face works a lot. So I'm still personally experimenting with the ultimate. It's just, in general, it's very difficult to do. I am becoming less and less optimistic for the surprise ults as I move up the ranks, because people, again, they know you've got the ultimate. They start looking for it, and then they pretend like they don't see you, and then the second they pop it, they just all 180, and you get shit on. So, yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult part to use in the kit. And now for some general miscellaneous tips on Iron Man. The first tip I can give you is to never, under any circumstances, use your micro missiles. They are mathematically not worth it. The animation time to deploy them and fire them, and even if you hit 100% of your micro missiles, which is never going to happen, it's still not worth it. Just use your right click. It's the better mathematical play. I don't know why this ability is so terrible. Maybe if they sped it up, or if it didn't have an animation, people would use it, but nobody uses the micro missiles, and you shouldn't. It just locks you into an animation that is inconsistent and a DPS loss. It's actually crazy how bad the micro missiles are. Next up is you have infinite ammo in ammo overdrive. And you also need to be sure to remember to reload before your ammo overdrive, before your armor overdrive. So you want to come out of your armor overdrive, do that little animation, and then have 100 ammo to work with and just do a crazy long beam. What you don't want to do is come out of your armor overdrive and then have to do the animation and then have to reload immediately after. That is worst case scenario, because usually you're coming out of armor overdrive, there's a decent chance somebody's going to be low, and if you can just keep on lasering, then yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Next thing you need to watch out for, and this is the ultimate noob trap, I still do this to this day, and that is your overdrive timer. When you pop overdrive, you need to be very aware of your timer, because the second the overdrive timer ends, you are locked into an animation where you cannot fire. You are a sitting duck. You cannot use your movement skill. This is a very easy way to die. And quite frankly, if you're watching this video and you want to play Ironman, you're just going to have to die doing this about 100 times before you figure it out. But yeah, when you use that overdrive, really pay attention to that timer, because you are locked into an animation the second it's over. I know I'm telling you this, but you're going to have to just get shit on a few times for it to sink in. Next thing is your shift movement. Your accelerated movement is very loud. However, Iron Man makes no sounds when he's just flying around normally, so use that as you will. Next tip, and this is a big one, especially when you're fighting hit scans like Hela or any sort of like sniper type character, and that is strafing up and down is very effective, and it's not something people are used to compensating for. So instead of just doing a right, left like everybody does, everybody's used to aiming on a horizontal plane. But if you're doing like an up, down, left, and you're moving on like a circle rather than just left and right, and you're doing, clockwise, counterclockwise, and you're mixing up your up and down movement, that is going to make you much harder to hit. Same thing goes with like moving diagonally. With Iron Man, the fact that you have unlimited flight means you can be very creative with your strafe and your mix-ups. So definitely take advantage of that. This is especially useful if you're fighting and using a payload as cover, and you can just really juck and jive behind the payload. So definitely take advantage of your ability to strafe up and down and get used to hitting spacebar and control and really playing with that vertical movement. And the final thing is you gotta start playing like a total pussy the second you start taking shots. If you start taking shots from a Hela, back off. Like, just back off and catch a heal and try again. That you're just gonna have to be patient with that, because if you don't, you're just gonna die. And a dead DPS does no damage. So yeah. And now for the controversial segment of the video, and that is, when do you swap off of Iron Man? Now, you do need to be able to play other heroes in Marvel Rivals. You cannot one-trick your way to the top of the ladder. For one reason alone, honestly, and that is target bans. If you are good at Iron Man, people are going to target ban you. Now, people are going to say, why not just make your profile private? Well, I do. My profile is private. Why not just use the streamer mode where they can't see your name? I do. And I still get target banned. Why? Because at Grandmaster and above, is Celestial around there are so few games happening that if you're torching people on Iron Man, even if they don't know it's you and they queue into the next game, sometimes they'll just ban Iron Man. It's crazy, but that kind of thing happens. And another thing that happens is that if you're at the higher levels of the game and GM1, Celestial around there, you're going to be playing with and against streamers. And believe it or not, people will stream snipe the ban screen. Meaning that even though I am not streaming, I have a streamer on my team, and they see that I'm the Iron Man because I'm the only one that plays Iron Man at this rank, and then they target ban Iron Man. So that's absolutely a thing you're gonna have to get used to dealing with. You're just gonna get banned, and take it as a compliment. Take it as a compliment, because they're target banning an off-meta hero. You gotta pat yourself on the back a little bit. It's annoying, but it does happen. Before we talk about some obvious cases where you need to swap off Iron Man, here's a case where you shouldn't. Now, there are going to be instances where you're playing Iron Man and the enemy team is shutting you down. You are doing nothing. You can barely peek your head out before you're dead. You're taking so much damage, and it seems like everybody is against you. The whole enemy team is fighting you and nobody else. Now, there's going to be a lot of cases where that happens, especially if you had a really dominant first half and then the enemy team makes a bunch of adjustments, switches up their heroes. They go double hit scan. They got a Psylocke. They're just doing everything in their power to shut you down. the number one thing you need to look at is, are you winning? Is your team winning? Because what happens a lot of the time, especially at lower ranks, is that the enemy team will overcompensate so much to shut you down that it enables the other 5 guys on your team to just bulldoze them. They got Luna Snows looking up in the sky, shooting you. They got a Psylocke that's, spawn camping you. They have, every single ult gets Magneto ulted. They got a, Strange flying up in the sky doing crazy stuff trying to shut you down. It's crazy the amount of compensation and overcorrection people will do to try and shut down an Iron Man. And if you find that you're getting shut down and totally locked down, but your team is bulldozing them, do not swap. Do not swap. Let them think that they're doing something good while your team just cruises to easy victory. Yes, there will be idiots on your team that think that, we just had to carry this useless Iron Man. And yeah, they're going to say that. You're going to get the win, and you're going to be higher ranked than them because there is a massive amount of overcompensation that happens against Iron Man. It's truly wild. So, are you winning? If you're winning, don't change a damn thing. Now let's talk about some bad hero matchups. What do you need to swap off Iron Man for if they've got this on their team? Well, the number one thing, and it's not what you expect, everybody's going to be thinking, it's Hela. It's Hela. Hela's going to be the thing that shuts you down as Iron Man. Yeah, Hela can kill you, but in fact, Hela is actually not that bad of a matchup for Iron Man. In fact, at the more extreme ranges, Iron Man can actually outpoke Hela. And if you're playing Iron Man in the way that I've been talking about in this video, you're really not exposing yourself to Hela. If you are getting exposed to Hela, usually something else is breaking down to where you can't actually, use your tanks effectively or use the cover correctly. Hela can still give you a hard time, but the number one character that's going to hard farm you, that's going to absolutely dominate you, and there's really nothing anybody can do, is Psylocke. That's right, it's not even Spider-Man, it is Psylocke. Psylocke is a character that is going to just crap on you. If they're halfway decent at Psylocke, they're going to surprise you and kill you. Even if you're in the sky, like her left click for some reason still just does that much damage, even if she's far away from you. Psylocke is a character that if they're halfway decent, they're just going to farm you over and over and over again, and there's nothing really you can do. Your supports, unless your supports are really on the ball, they can't really save you. It's not like Spider-Man where you can sort of see it coming. Psylocke really does just pop out of stealth and dunk on you. So if they have a halfway decent Psylocke that knows what the hell they're doing, there's a very good chance you're going to need to swap, and you'll know pretty quick. Like if you just start getting dunked on by Psylocke, you got to swap. The Psylocke's got your number. Move it along, and maybe whip out the Iron Man next game. Next up is 2 really good hit scans. Now, just because they have 2 hit scans doesn't mean that you got to swap. But if they're hitting their shots and you really can't ever get like a little bit of height or get a little bit of an off angle, if they're just peppering you the second you whip your head out, if they got 2 hit scans, you might want to think about swapping off. Now, next thing, if they have 1 really good Punisher with the Rocket combo, the Rocket unlimited ammo combo with Punisher when he shoots fast is pretty lethal. So if they have a pretty cracked out Punisher that does have that combo, you're just going to get killed randomly, like instantly. You're just going to instantly die every now and then. It's really just not worth it. You need to play something that's not quite as vulnerable to that combo. Next thing you need to look for is 1 hit scan and 1 Hawkeye. Hawkeye is something that if it's just Hawkeye, normally you're okay. But if it's a hit scan with Hawkeye, you're in a little bit of trouble because what generally happens is the hit scan will pepper you down a little bit, and then the Hawkeye will have that big hit of burst damage that will kill you. So if it's just 1 Hawkeye, you can usually get away with it. If it's just 1 hit scan, you can get away with it. But both, it's going to be a little shaky. So just consider that. If they're dunking on you, you might want to swap. And the final thing is 1 autistic Spider-Man. Just because they have Spider-Man does not necessarily mean you need to swap, especially if your supports are good. A lot of people that swap to Spider-Man, if they're having problems with your Iron Man, a lot of the times those people that are swapping to Spider-Man are not actually good. Even at Grandmaster, they're just not good at the character. They're just sort of hoping to scare you off. But if your supports are really on the ball and they just heal you the second he does his combo, like sometimes you just actually face tank Spider-Man. But there's some Spider-Mans that are just built different. There's some that are just that good where even if you're playing safely inside your team and your supports are on the ball, they're just doing the high damage combos and yeah, you're just cooked. So if they have one of those Spider-Men, get off Iron Man. He's gonna farm you. But most people are not that guy. So don't immediately swap the second you see Spider-Man. Let him actually prove himself to you first before you immediately swap. So you've got to swap. What characters do you swap to? Well, the obvious choices are the ones with the transferable skills: Punisher, Star-Lord, Hela. You know, if you can do the tracking of Iron Man, you can probably play those heroes. And those heroes, a lot of the time, are going to be very drag and drop, and they just work all the time just because they're very good heroes. However, I do have one suggestion. You know, you're already playing Iron Man, which is an off-meta hero. One character that, in my opinion, is surprisingly really good to swap to if you're getting dunked on as Iron Man is actually Mr. Fantastic. And no, I am not trolling. If you are getting dunked on by these like finesse style characters like Psylocke and Spider-Man and Hawkeye, and these characters that aren't like necessarily bruisers, Mr. Fantastic actually does really well because he will empower your front line to just bulldoze these finesse characters. Like Hela and Hawkeye and Spider-Man and Psylocke, they will just get bulldozed by empowered tanks through Mr. Fantastic. And Mr. Fantastic can just tank all that stuff. Like, I'm not super concerned about Spider-Man on Mr. Fantastic. I'm not super concerned about Psylocke surprising me on Mr. Fantastic. So, I don't know. It's unironically kind of like a counter to your counters. So if you want to get good at something that's a little off meta, get good at Mr. Fantastic. He might do all right as a complement to an Iron Man swap. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I hope you guys found this video useful. Let me know if you learned something. I love playing Iron Man. I don't think any other character in the game has quite the cinematic feel of getting clips on Iron Man, whether it's, you know, unibeams or big ults or even just like the crazy repulsor calculus where you hit like a really long range repulsor. I think Iron Man is just an unbelievably satisfying character to play, especially if you're doing well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good one.